I push open the glass door of Holloway Title at 9:12 a.m. The bell chimes and I freeze. Lucas is already there. His sleeves are rolled up. He is smiling at a woman I know from pictures but never thought I would meet in person, Dahlia Moreau. A neat stack of closing papers sits between them. The closer stands, pen ready. My voice cracks before I can steady it. You can't sign that. This is our house. Lucas stares at me like I've walked into someone else's life. He blinks slowly and says, I handled it, Maya. He gestures toward the papers as if that explains everything. My hand slams a folder onto the table. Old tax receipts spill out. The original deed is in the pile, my name stamped as co-owner in faded ink. I shove forward a notarized letter I found at 2 in the morning the night before. The closer leans back. His raised pen freezes. Lucas goes white. For a second the room warps and hushes around us. My hands tremble so badly a photograph of Grandma slips from the folder and hits the tile with a soft thud. The closer swallows and taps his tablet. A notification pops up. He frowns and reads out loud. The title company released funds this morning. He points, and the tablet shows an electronic transfer receipt with the buyer's bank listed as the recipient. I take everything home and spread it across my kitchen table like evidence in a messy case. There are emails printed on cheap paper, ledger exports, utility bills with my name on half the lines. I stack the receipts in piles and trace each one. For years I had paid for half of the property's upkeep. The receipts show it. Hidden deep among them are restaurant tabs and rental car invoices, all in Lucas's handwriting. The dates match the days he swore he was at work. A wire transfer catches my eye. $50,000 moved from our joint account to an entity called Cinder Oak Holdings. That name means nothing to me at first until I find other small notes with the same name. The notes look like accountant scribbles, pass-through entries and short memos. I put my nightly screenshots next to the paper prints. The screenshots were my way of calming myself when I woke up at night worried. I had jokingly called them paranoia logs. Now they line up like a train wreck. When I roll one sheet over, a notary stamp matches the one on the closing packet from the title office. My pulse triples. I read the small text by the stamp. There's a name of a notary I do not recognize. Feels like a cold hand on my spine. I do not scream. I do not cry yet. I took inventory. I become a quiet machine of facts. I gather title abstracts and old wills, the inheritance papers with joinder initials, and the original deed buried beneath a stack of tax notices. I take the thin attic box with the old will we kept when Grandma died and photograph each brittle page. I find the junk drawer list of passwords and copy it into a new notebook. Every document gets a time-stamped photo. I write a short chain of custody note beside each image, where I found it and what time. I label the piles, receipts, account prints, notarized materials. When Lucas's sister calls and asks me to tell her I'm okay, I answer with a calm voice. She speaks fast and spills a detail about Lucas's 20s, an abandoned partnership he had then. She mentions a name I recognize from an old foreclosure notice. I feel my stomach drop like I've been punched. I cross-check the foreclosure folder. My breath shortens when I find a logo on one of Cinder Oak's promissory notes. The same logo is on the old foreclosure file. The lines converge in my head. Everything I suspected seems to line up. At dinner I corner Lucas like it's a small rehearsal for the confrontation I think I will have. He smiles in that old way he used when we were kids and needed mercy. He jokes and shrugs as if nothing is wrong. I handled a tricky buyer, he says. It was better this way. He calls Dahlia an old college friend. He tells me he wanted to protect our parents from drama. He says, I'll make it right. I watch his fingers drum the table. My chest aches. I remember the logo on the foreclosure files and a margin note about asset stripping. The words crawl across my mind like ants. I keep my voice small. He reaches across the table and takes my hand like a man asking to be forgiven. He comforts me as if I am a child and he's the kind brother. I let him for a moment. Pretending calms him. Pretending gives me time. He smiles and talks about simplifying the estate paperwork. Then he says too casually, I signed a quitclaim back in April to simplify things. My notebook says something different. I have a record showing he recorded a power of attorney months earlier. His words trip. I call Evan Cho. He's a forensic accountant I used to hire for odd jobs when clients needed detailed books cleaned. I tell him it's a tax question, which is true enough. I ask him to look at our property taxes and the related transfers. He tells me he will take a casual look. 2 nights later his text arrives, short and sharp. This isn't a sale. It's a pass-through. Evan explained the path the money took. It traveled from our account to Cinder Oak, then folded into 3 shell LLCs. Each shell dissolved and moved the funds along like a relay race. The pattern was not random. He texts me a map of the transfers, numbers and timestamps. The title company flags an overnight wire scheduled to clear to an out-of-state account. I screenshot every message. My head feels like a drum. Evan asks a question that makes my breath hitch. Do you want me to subpoena the buyer's deposits? He includes a file name with bank details. My eyes fly to the attached file. The buyer's deposit trace leads back to a corporate account tied to a name Lucas once mentioned. Caleb Royce. The name pulls a tight knot in my chest. I hear what people expect. They expect a dramatic blow-up, a door slamming, shouting. They expect me to rip the house apart. I don't. I make lunch for Lucas and pack his sandwich anyway. I laugh at a bad joke about his old Honda and let him leave without an argument. I fold my face into a polite shape so no one guesses the plan forming inside. After he goes, I call Cobalt Trust and ask for a transfer watch on our accounts under the quiet pretense of peace of mind. The bank agrees to flag unusual activity and send me alerts. He texts a selfie from a cafe with Dahlia smiling. The receipt for that dinner is dated the same night as the selfie. I file that photo and the receipt into evidence. An hour later, the bank rep calls back with a voice low and careful. There was a second wire attempt, they say. It failed because we placed a temporary hold for unusual activity. My shoulders loosen in one slow breath. The hold might buy time. I breathe in and out and try to stay steady. Evan uncovers a secret escrow account in another state. The account lists both Lucas and Dahlia by name. The ledger shows a steady stream of deposits, and then a single large payout of $187,500 the week of the closing. Someone had planned for this. It was not an accident. Dahlia's social posts claim she lives paycheck to paycheck. But the ledger hums a different tune. She'd painted a life of small apartments and late shifts, yet the numbers tell a richer story. I call Claire Denton, an estate attorney who once helped me rewrite a will after Grandma got sick. I tell Claire I need to update paperwork. I show her the escrow discovery in a private meeting. Claire's eyes narrow at the screen. She suggests a subpoena to stop the payout. I feel my mouth go dry. Headlines would be ugly. I'm not ready for that. But I am ready to stop the money from disappearing. At dawn, the subpoena is served. I watch the process server cross the street. My phone buzzes with a missed call. It's Lucas. He goes straight to voicemail. Owen, my old neighbor who tends bar late, appears with a brown paper bag like he's delivering a confession. He'd heard Lucas tell a patron in low, slurred words that he fixed the property problem. Owen's hand shakes as he sets the bag on my counter. Inside is a signed receipt with Lucas's handwriting dated a week earlier. The description reads, "Gift to Dahlia." My vindication tastes like metal. I feel nausea and a hot band of anger at once. Owen also gives me a business card he found at the table. The card bears a name I don't know, Gideon Frost. The card has an email that bounces to info@stonebridgeassets.com. I make a note. Stonebridge Assets is a shell company name that rings like a bell from those old foreclosure files. My mind cycles to the notary stamps in the escrow. The card leads somewhere. I try the email. It auto-responds with a forwarding address I do not yet recognize. I lean my forehead to the table and whisper a single steady sentence. This is bigger than just my brother. I make a fake profile and reach out to a friend listed on Dahlia's feed. I pose as a neighbor interested in a local charity. The friend is quick to respond and invites me into Dahlia's story. I find out Dahlia's online life is a honeycomb of rented sets and arranged photos. Her office is a rented co-working space billed to various cards. I find an unpaid medical bill in a county nearby with a name that matches a clinic she claimed to work for. The clinic has no employee by that name. I keep pulling threads. A deposit slip from the clinic appears in one of the leaked ledgers. When I trace it, it goes to a private account with a forged endorsement. The forged signature is nearly identical to Lucas's. A week later, Dahlia posts a beach photo. The caption brags about saving for a future. Her social persona wobbles between claims of poverty and sudden trips to sunny places. The ledger does not lie. The truth in the paper is clearer than the truth in her carefully cropped images. I draft an ultimatum and leave it on the kitchen table like a play prop. The letter tells Lucas he must reverse the sale and come clean. I do not intend to send it. I want him to see it, to feel it. I pack a bag partly to show I might leave and partly to make visible my resolve. When he notices, he pleads and bargains in the doorway. He talks about mistakes and promises to make everything right. The air smells like old coffee and cheap cologne. He mumbles that he cleared the Cinder Oak account 2 weeks ago. I slowly write the admission in my notebook. He thinks I don't know the code words. I let him keep speaking. In the middle of his apology, the doorbell rings. I open it expecting life to stall into something steady again. A woman stands there holding a card. She says she is with a small business weekly and is chasing shady closings in the area. She slides the card across my palm. The card has a number. It is red and urgent, like a match that might start something larger. Hannah Price shows up 10 minutes after the woman leaves. She introduces herself as a reporter who covers small real estate fraud and says she has chased men like Lucas for years. She slides a yellowed headline across my kitchen table about a foreclosure in Circle Township from years back. She says men always leave the same footprints. Hannah offers to check corporate filings for me if I will share what I have gathered so far. I do not trust easily. But I know the pattern might be larger than my single anger. I give her a guarded lead, Caleb Royce. Hannah nods and takes the name seriously. She leaves me with a flyer and a promise to dig deeper. That night I Google the number on the flyer. An archived article pops up with Lucas's name in a notice about a past partner dispute. My throat tightens. The archived article links to a notary stamp. I compare it to the stamp on the closing papers. The ink match chills me. I reach into the file cabinet and pull a document I had hoped not to see. It is a loan agreement Lucas signed years ago. My name is on the page as guarantor, but the signature beside mine looks wrong. It is a clumsy copy, a forgery. My stomach flips. In the margins I find Dahlia's initials scribbled in a way that makes my fingers hurt. He had signed away our equity and tried to hide it beneath paperwork we had trusted. I photocopy the pages and add them to the folder Claire keeps for legal work. That night I go to the laundry room and catch Lucas by the shredder, stuffing mail into the machine. I lift my phone and take a quick covert photo. He glances up and thinks I am ignorant. The shredded mess looks innocent, but among the torn bits I glimpse a bank notice with a routing number. The number is odd and new. I tuck the image away and let the shredder continue to make a futile sound. I hire Claire Denton. The first office smells of polished wood and coffee. Claire reads the pile I hand to her like a detective tracing a map. She files emergency motions at once. An asset freeze against accounts tied to Stonebridge and Cinder Oak, orders for immediate financial disclosure, and instructions to preserve the title records. The judge sets a rapid timetable. At the hearing I hand the judge a thick folder. Inside are bank prints, emails, the notarized copies and photographs. The evidence is heavy in my hands. Dahlia's counsel pushes back and files for a protective order to keep some of her financial details private. The judge listens and sets an evidentiary hearing in 3 days. I watch Lucas's face go pale and brittle. Out in the hall my phone buzzes. An unknown number leaves a voicemail. The voice on the message says someone wants to tell me where the shell companies really dissipate funds. The line goes dead after a single breath. Lucas goes to work like nothing happened. He tries to keep the routine. 2 hours in he is called into HR. Word moved like water through a crack. Someone at the firm leaked a link connecting his closings to suspicious transfers. He returns home with his shirt untucked and asks me to publicly vouch for him. I fix him a cup of tea and say nothing. I plan my next legal move in the margins of a bill. That night a voicemail appears from a woman named Ruth. She says she worked at our house a few years ago and remembers Lucas signing envelopes in secrecy. She will only talk if I guarantee anonymity. I leave the kettle on the stove and think of how people fear losing their jobs when they tell the truth. Ruth's voice is small in the message. She says she has a photograph of Lucas and Dahlia leaving a motel at dawn. If true, it will tie them together in a way paper alone could not. Ruth slides an envelope under my apartment door just after midnight. My heart jumps when I see the small package on the mat. Inside is a photo. Lucas and Dahlia walk from a downtown motel at 5 a.m., coffee cups in hand, faces half hidden. The date on the back matches a series of receipts I already have. Ruth explains in a short note she stayed silent for fear of losing work but decided to help now. I bring the photo to Claire. She traces the edges and says photographs like this are dangerous and useful. Dahlia's counsel immediately subpoenas my phone records, trying to find the leak. Suddenly, nothing I stored privately feels safe. My breath hitches. The subpoena lists an odd IP address tied to Cinder Oak's wire metadata. The math between photos and IPs begins to line up. Every time I think the net tightens, I find another loose thread. The case is a living thing. Dahlia's lawyers fight dirty. They leak a doctored email to a gossip blog painting me as a vindictive sister trying to ruin a young entrepreneur. The smear spreads like cheap oil. I feel the sting even though I know the truth. Comments accuse me of being petty. But Evan shoots back with bank metadata that pins transfers to IP addresses and times. The metadata shows a log entry from Lucas's laptop at 2 in the morning. Public sympathy shifts again when Evan releases the evidence. Strangers send messages of support. My father calls late and says he remembers something from years ago. Lucas did something similar in another town. He digs up a yellowed clipping that names Gideon Frost alongside a property collapse. The clipping ties the past to the present. When I read it, my hands go cold. The name Gideon Frost appears like a repeating signature on decades of shady deals. Dad hands me the faded clipping like it is evidence from a family lore case. It tells of a foreclosure where Gideon Frost and a partner connived to strip property value. My hands tremble as I show Claire. We plan to introduce prior acts in court to prove a pattern. In civil litigation that can be risky, but the judge may allow it. In court, the judge scans our file and asks for certified copies of the old case documents. Claire whispers that the clerk is pulling them now. If the prior acts are admitted, the case will change. Dahlia's lawyer demands a recess and plots to fight back with anything they can find. I sit quiet and watch the legal machinery turn. The judge's face gives nothing away as the clerk searches the archive. Time seems to slow. Discovery works its slow alchemy and brings a surprise. Dahlia's camp offers a private settlement. They will return a portion of the sale proceeds if I sign a non-disclosure agreement. They suggest small silence for a clean exit. Lucas leans on me in the kitchen and whispers he wants the payoff to be fast and private. I pretend to consider the offer and write down his exact terms. He scrawls a promise on a napkin and hands it to me like a bribe. He looks fragile and relieved as if money can fix everything. I seal the napkin in an envelope and give it to Claire. He thinks he bought my silence. I have another plan moving like a steel line through my thoughts. Evan calls with a harsh breath. He has found a forged endorsement on a deposit slip. The signature points to a corporate account linked to Caleb Royce. The discovery pulls the case toward criminal territory. Evan hands the forged deposit slip to Claire and she calls assistant. Asha Varma. Asha listens and her voice tightens. She asks to see everything. The forged signature and routing loops traced through Stonebridge assets show a pattern that is not just civil mischief. It looks criminal. I sit in Asha's conference room and feel the weight of what saying yes means. If I testify, I will drag family into court and burn bridges. Asha asks if I will cooperate with a criminal investigation. Her face softens and says she believes the evidence is strong. Then Asha drops a harder line. Lucas is now a named suspect. The word lands like a stone in my gut. If the DA pursues charges, the case will move beyond contracts and into the realm of fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. Pressure mounts like a storm. At dinner that night, Lucas breaks. He screams that I am ruining him, that I was always jealous and waiting. His words ricochet around the room. I sit and listen, holding a quiet I had practiced for months. He finishes and staggers away like a man who has run out of performances. I move calmly and slide across the table a stack of papers I had prepared as a last resort. Co-ownership dissolution documents. I file them. Lucas does not expect action. He thought my silence a soft pillow. The papers are served. Dahlia posts a social plea for understanding and paints herself as a victim. Then my phone rings. Asha's office wants an interview first thing tomorrow. My breath catches. The call is short and sure. I sleep badly with the knowledge that the next morning I will tell what I know. Detective Miguel Santos calls and asks for every scrap of data I have. Logins, bank statements, recordings. He wants full cooperation. I print folders until my printer whines. I rehearse what I will say until the words stop feeling foreign in my mouth. At the preliminary hearing I tell the story I have held and watch Miguel call Lucas a suspect. In the hallway I meet Ava Kim, an angel investor who read an early leak. She hands me a card and says she wants to help create a recovery program for people who lost property to predatory buyers. Her voice trembles with interest. Asha tells me to keep specifics under seal until indictment. Ava hints she will invest if I go public. The prosecutor's warning and Ava's offer tug me in two directions. The choice feels impossible. The civil judge rules in a way I did not expect. The court treats the transfers as dissipation of shared assets. The judge orders a freeze on accounts linked to Stonebridge and Cinder Oak and adjusts ownership in my favor. The ruling carries the force of an anchor. Dahlia is subpoenaed by Asha and criminal holds drain the shell accounts. Walking out of court I feel the first lightness of reclaiming what was taken. Stones in the water shift. Lucas looks hollow and small. Asha later calls with a new development. Prosecutors have an offer that would include restitution if Dahlia and Caleb plead guilty. The idea of restitution tastes like slow medicine. The legal machinery grinds forward with both civil relief and the threat of criminal consequences. I breathe and try to imagine life after the storm. The fallout happens fast. Colleagues avoid Lucas. Friends distance themselves. His standing in the community collapses like a house of cards. He loses a contract, then his job. The press knits the story into a warning about family trusts and predatory buyers. Lucas writes an op-ed accusing me of betrayal, a last attempt to dignify his ruin. The documents and the timeline speak louder. An old mentor, Elena Park, reaches out and offers to help incubate a non-profit for people who lose property to fraud. Elena sends a ledger she found in an old business file. It names Lucas and links him to another suspicious transfer years ago. The new evidence is another brick in the wall that proves a pattern. I feel the relief of being believed and the ache of the costs. With the court-ordered restitution, frozen funds, and Ava's small seed investment, I start a recovery fund. We help families undo covert property thefts. The work gives me purpose and quiet satisfaction. I give interviews carefully and tell the story on my terms. The reaction is fierce and supportive. People write to say their family properties were almost taken. Lucas tries to claw back assets and fails. The court orders him to pay legal fees. He grows smaller with each failed attempt. The non-profit launches with a modest banner and a louder promise. Elena and Ava help me with the first grant cycle. Then a message arrives from Lucas. He asks to meet face to face. He says he wants to explain. The note is short and raw and I do not know if I want to listen. Months later I stand at a community center podium talking about rebuilding after betrayal. My voice is steady and full of the lessons I learned. The room is full of people who lost houses, parents, and savings. I tell them how to document, how to lock accounts, and how to trust evidence more than words. After the talk, Lucas waits. He looks smaller, softer. He asks for forgiveness in a voice that cracks. I slide across a photocopy of the napkin check he once thought would buy my silence. The napkin he signed in a bar. I tell him I forgave long ago, but forgiveness does not erase consequences. My phone pings. Asha's office notifies me the plea is closed and restitution is finalized. A weight lifts from my chest. I step off stage to warm applause and see Lucas watching the notification on my phone. He has nothing left to steal. Then a new email arrives from Ava. She offers to expand the nonprofit with a larger grant. I open it and breathe for the first time in months. The future feels like a room I can walk into on my terms.